Yeah.
Greetings, Deep Dive Podcast listeners. This is your boy, Sam Orum, coming at you with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. Guys, we're closing out the latter part of the month of Black History Month, and I wanted to continue a series of topics that was relevant to Black history, whether it was some information and empowerment from the past or some things that we needed to do to look forward to the future. So, tonight's episode, February 16th, episode is going to be powerful because we're going to talk about Black integrity, which is so very, very important. But before I get into that topic, I always like to thank all of our listeners from around the country, around the world, all of our viewers from around the world. It means a lot to me that you would support the podcast to the degree that you do. So I really appreciate all of your support. For those of you who may be new to the Deep Dive Podcast, I want to welcome all of you. Make sure you go to the Facebook group, the Deep Dive Podcast, and request to be a member of the group. We're excited as the group is growing, the interaction is growing, and so we're having a great time in empowerment and entertainment. So we certainly want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. So anyway, this episode is going to be a brief episode, but I don't want you to take the brevity of it as that is not serious, because this is, and I don't mean serious in terms of tragic serious, I mean serious in terms of how we need to conduct ourselves. And so the topic of this episode is Black integrity. And I wanted to talk about Black integrity because as we're looking forward to the future, as we're looking forward to empowering ourselves in a community moving forward. I talked last week about, I think I gave you 8 tips last week about how to build a successful Black-owned business. If you didn't listen or take a look at that episode, go back to last week's episode and take a look at that. But we're building momentum in terms of what we need to do moving forward in terms of the future. And I think integrity in the Black community is going to be more important now than ever before. What do I mean by integrity? Well, the long and short of it is doing what you say you're going to do. Doing what you say you're going to do. So many people, they're like, I'm going to show up for this and they don't, or they're going to show up for this and they're going to be late. They just don't have any semblance of integrity when it comes to doing what they say they're going to do. As a matter of fact, this is crazy, man. This is crazy when I think about this. More times than not, I can count on people not doing what they say they're going to do, as opposed to really doing it. You can count on most people not doing what they say they're going to do. That's tragic, man. And when you're talking about building in the Black community, building and focusing forward, well, if you don't have a level of integrity, then you're not going to succeed. That's point blank, period. There are some people, and I know y'all know people like this, right? There are some people you can count on the fact that no matter what they tell you, what time they tell you they're going to arrive, they're going to be late. You can count on the fact that they're going to be late. Think about that for a second. That, so to me, and it may be my personality, but that to me, it so lacks integrity. If you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, be there at that time, if not 15, 20 minutes earlier. And then some people have the audacity to come 15, 20 minutes late and think it's cool. I mentioned this on a previous episode, but I had an interview with this guy in Africa, right? I had a podcast interview scheduled with this guy in Africa. And, we set this up weeks in advance. Everything is in play. It was a big time production. You got the whole TV deal, you got the podcast deal. It was a big, big, big time production in terms of me being the guest speaker on this particular platform in Africa. And so when it was time to do what we needed to do, I'm logged in, I'm on Zoom, I'm doing, I'm there, I'm waiting, and I'm noticing that, it's the top of the hour. We're supposed to be getting started. And I don't know if this guy, I'm not going to call his name, you may be listening from Africa. I hope you are. But we were supposed to start at the top of the hour. And I'm on Zoom and I'm waiting, and nothing happened. The little message saying that the host will log you in soon, or whatever the message was. And I'm just waiting, I'm waiting. And about 5 minutes after the hour, they still weren't on. They still weren't on. So I disconnected. I absolutely disconnected. They spent a lot of time, they spent a lot of money, they spent a lot of effort to have me as a guest. And 5 minutes after, I disconnected. About 4 or 5 minutes after that, I'm getting these frantic phone calls and texts. Hey, look, we were running behind time, and we apologize, and can we get you to log back in, and blah blah blah. And I said no, I'm not getting back in. Not only the fact that you didn't, put it this way, if you were having issues, and I know we have issues a lot of times, I even have issues. Technology, you cannot control that all the time. But the same people and effort that they put to say, can you get back on? From my standpoint, and I could be wrong, but this is just what happened. This is the truth. From my standpoint, they could have had that same amount of effort to say, hey, look, we're having some technical challenges, or whatever it may have been. I still don't know what it was, but we're having some technical challenges. We may be a few minutes late, just hanging there with us. Oh yeah, I can respect that. That's fine, because I deal with that. I understand how that goes. But no, how was I supposed to know that they were even going to show up? You know what I mean? I had no message, no nothing. I just sat there. So after 5 minutes, I'm done. For me, that's an integrity thing. And like I said, you may be on it, you may be listening in. If you are, I hope it was a lesson learned, because I don't play that. If you can, one thing you can rest assured, when I schedule a meeting, we're going to start on time. We're going to start on time. And if we don't, it's an act of God. It's just, we would have put forth all types of effort to make sure we start on time, or let people know if we're running behind a few minutes or whatever it may be. Because again, things do happen. I don't want you to misconstrue that. But yeah, that's a part of integrity. You just got to be able to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And I try my best, the same thing in terms of ending meetings. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging in terms of ending meetings, because you don't want to waste the time of all the time you spent prior by not really, closing out and getting to the message that you're supposed to create the value for. So that may be challenging a bit to end meetings, but certainly you can start a meeting on time. That's a part of integrity. Black integrity is also about, morals and principles. There are some people that I so respect, because they are who they are. They're going to do what they said. And I don't mean this from an integrity part so much. I mean, it is integrity, but I guess the word I'm looking for is more morals and principles. They're not going to cuss. They're not going to drink. They're not going to do all of these other things. They don't matter. They don't care what there's no such thing as peer pressure. They're not going to do it. I'm similar in terms of not being affected by peer pressure, but it's not, for me, not so much the morals and principles of having a drink or cussing. Because if I want to have a drink, I'm going to have a drink. If I want to cuss, I'm going to cuss. So it ain't from that aspect. It's from the aspect of, I'm going to do what I want to do. That's that moral and principle that I stand on, right? Now I try not to cuss. I got two cuss words that I keep in reserve for those special moments. So I tried not to. I got that from my mama. She had two good cuss words. And that was about it. She wasn't gonna really get off into all of the deep cuss words. So, but anyway, need I digress. Morals and principles are important. And I respect people who just stand by what they stand by, whether I agree with it or not. I don't have to agree with it. I so respect people who stand by their morals and principles. Values are something else. What are your values? I take a lot of heat a lot of times, dealing with business and global business, um, international business, things that I do, organizations that I'm a part of, groups that I'm a part of. And you guys know, I'm an executive coach and I speak and all these other things. A lot of times I take a lot of heat because I try to respect everybody's viewpoints and everybody's values, even if they differ from mine. For example, a lot of times me being, a follower and my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, right? And so that's who I am. That's what I stand for, stand by. But I speak in other parts of the world. I've spoken in Dubai and had meetings in other parts of the world where Christianity or my vision or religious beliefs aren't the same. Well, I can't not be who I am. I'm who I am, and I'm going to stick by my values. I'm going to stick by my principles. I'm going to stick by my religious ideologies or whatever it may be, right? But I don't want to, not say I don't want to, I'm not going to disrespect someone else's values or principles or beliefs just because I believe something different. And a lot of times I take heat for that. I take heat for that all the time because if I'm in a public setting, a lot of times, even if we're praying, if we're saying a prayer, whether it's over a meal or whatever, a lot of times I may say intentionally, thank God. I may not say, Jesus, or I may just say thank God because that's all encompassing, right? Or there are environments where I would talk about your creator, whatever, because I'm trying to respect other people's beliefs and values. You don't want to infringe upon other people's values just based on what you believe, right? So you have to have that sense of understanding about values and principles. Now, I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I'm just telling you this is how I am. So I respect that. But for me, that's integrity. It's integrity to be able to say, hey, look, I'm in, this country where the beliefs may be totally different, or I could be in my own meeting. I could be in a one voice meeting. There are various beliefs, even in my one voice meeting. And as opposed to me espousing, trying to espouse my belief on everybody else, I respect everybody else's belief. I respect everybody else's thoughts. As a matter of fact, for me, because I don't know everything about everything, and I'm always open to learn, if you're trying to share with me some of your values, some things that you value from your own religious belief or religious stance, if you just share the information with me, let me discern what's important to me in my life and my future. If you're trying to convert me, then that's where you're going to lose me because I can't hear it because I have my own values, if that makes sense. I have my own values. But wonder if you took a different approach. You took the approach of this is what I have. This is what I believe. This is what I've studied. This is what I understand, right? And you give that to me and let me say, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. How does that jive with what it is that I believe or my values or my principles, right? How does that jive with that? That's interesting. That may be something that I can incorporate in my life because a fact is a fact. So you have to do it with tact. A good friend of mine, Jeff Landrum, he has a podcast called Changing Faces Ministry Podcast that airs every Friday morning on this radio station at 9 a.m. Eastern. And one thing that I respect about him, even in his ministry, and even as he, speaks to people who have varying beliefs, and I learned this from him. They have varying beliefs. I heard him say on numerous occasions, "Well, my Bible says," and I thought that was interesting because it's like, okay, wait a minute. You're not changing your values because you're saying my Bible says. So you're still approaching from a standpoint of this is what your values are or your principles are, right? But you're not dismissing anybody else's because their Bible or their worship literature or their culture could say something else. You're not dismissing it. You're just saying, well, this is what my Bible says. And I so respect that approach. That's integrity, guys. That's integrity. You know, being able to understand what those things mean, being able to self-respect, to be able to respect other people. Those things are important. Honesty is important. Taking responsibility is important. I have to deal with this a lot in business. Being the CEO of companies, I have to take responsibility no matter who did what. It ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter what goes wrong, it's my responsibility. No matter what it is my responsibility. So, you know, you can have someone that's doing something crazy in a whole nother state, in a whole nother area that's a part of your business. But when it comes to the responsibility, I have to take the responsibility as founder and CEO of my company. It is important. It's important for you, but it's also important for your company that you would take that responsibility. A lot of times when I'm on these public platforms and when I'm speaking relating to business, people will ask me, well, you know, we talk about this. Why didn't you talk about it, you know, on the podcast, or why didn't you talk about this on your Zoom or in a conference call? Is because when you're in a public platform and you are the decision maker, you are the founder, you are the CEO, there's no such thing as plausible deniability. So once you say it, it's out there, it's in the atmosphere, there is no such thing as plausible deniability. And because I take responsibility for my company, for my actions, if I say something, even if it's not intended to be something nefarious or I just make a mistake. You know, people make mistakes and I say that, then I ultimately have to take responsibility for it. But that can have an adverse effect on your business. If I say something crazy, then I had to laugh at myself on that because when I say something crazy, because I'm always saying something crazy. But you know, if I say something that I shouldn't, for example, if when you're talking about business and making money, let me give you this example. You can't, this is the law, by the way, you can't say you're making, you'll make this amount of money per month if you haven't made that amount of money per month. You can't legally say it. It's called enticement. You can't say it. What you say is, theoretically, you could do this. Or for example, you can't make any income claims. Well, if I get on a platform, public platform, and I make an income claim and I don't have a disclaimer, with that income claim, then I'm in trouble. My company is in trouble because I have to take responsibility for that. I am the owner. I am the founder. I am the CEO. There is no plausible deniability. And now we got some issues, right? So as you're building your business, your company, or whatever you're doing, you have to make sure you understand what responsibility means. And that's integrity. What does taking responsibility mean? That's integrity. Okay. Carry yourself with dignity, man. That's integrity. Carry yourself with dignity. I'm not the best dresser, or I'm not into all of the clothes and stuff like I used to be. Just on the day-to-day grind. Hey, look, it is what it is. I'm trying to be comfortable, right? But when it comes to my business, when it comes to representing myself or my company, that's a whole nother story. So you carry yourself with dignity, you carry yourself with pride, you carry yourself in a manner that represents who you are and what your values are. That word again. Sometimes, man, it's difficult for people to understand, especially younger cats, because, younger cats, and I was like this too, you're so rebellious. You just know everything and, all this other kind of stuff. It gets difficult for people to understand that if you carry yourself in a certain way that's not so positive, you're going to lessen your chance of success because people prejudge you anyway, right? And then if you give them, you know, additional ammunition to judge you in a negative way, whether it's how you dress, whether it's how you speak, all these other kind of things, then you're going to lessen your chance for success. You know, when I'm speaking, I I'm a country boy from Alabama. You know, people know that as soon as I open my mouth. A lot of times I don't have, you know, I'm not using proper grammar and all of these other things. And but at the end of the day, I'm that way because I'm authentic to who I am. But let's not get it twisted. I graduated with 4 degrees. I know proper grammar, proper English. I know multiple languages. I understand and I can sit at the table from any entity around the world and have a conversation with anybody around the globe about anything around the globe. Trust and believe. I can have an intelligent conversation about whether it's something dealing with political issues or whether it's climate issues or whether it's financial issues or whatever it may be. I've sat with people all over the world and I consider myself a chameleon in being able to adapt to my environment to be successful, no matter what it is, no matter who it is. And I do that without sacrificing my values, my integrity, my dignity. If I'm sitting across the table, and I've done this with, you know, a decision maker in Dubai. I remember this one guy. I was in Dubai. This was probably, I don't know, it's been several years ago now, but I was in Dubai and I was talking to this guy about business. I don't want to get into the business, but I was talking about business, and the guy was so very impressed, right? And I can't remember all the specifics, but I know I had to leave Dubai, I had to come back to America for something. And then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll come back to Dubai and just kind of finish this conversation. And this guy that I was meeting with, young guy, very powerful, he's like, look, you know, we can do business. I know you got to get back to America. I have a plane. I could fly you to America on this plane, and plane will bring you back, and we can close out this deal, and this is what we can do. And then he said something that kind of blew me away. It almost made me forget my values. He was like, if we could do this, you can have this plane. You can have this plane if we could do this. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm still a brother from the hood. All my values almost went out the window, but I'm like, nah, I can't do that, bro. I can't do that. I can't do that. I cannot build a business at the expense of other people. I cannot do that. I don't care what it is. I can't build it at the expense of other people. I could have made tons and tons of money. I could have had that plane. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought about it. I thought about taking that plane. I thought about taking the millions. I thought about, look, hey, look, y'all people that I got to do what I got to do. I just got to make my come up, and y'all on your own. But I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I can't do that. As a matter of fact, this is quite the opposite. A lot of my businesses, a lot of my businesses could be a lot better if I would compromise on certain things, but I just won't. People, you know, sometimes they come to my meetings. There are a few people there, a lot of people there. Sometimes there's just a handful of people there. People are like, well, you know, after all this time, why don't you have a whole bunch of people? Because I won't compromise my values. I'm not going to do this at the expense of people just to have a whole lot of people in a room. I'm not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to do what's right because it's right. Okay. That's Black integrity. That's what you have to do. Now, you will suffer for that at some degree. I mean, it's just the nature of people. But at some point, you got to stand for something. And I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to dismiss my values for the sake of money. That's not what I'm going to do, simply because my purpose in life is not money. My purpose in life is the empowerment of people. So no, I didn't take the plane. No, I didn't take the millions, but I sure wanted to. So anyway, guys, maintain your dignity, maintaining your values. That helps build a community. That's what integrity is all about. Understanding Black empowerment. What does empowerment mean? You hear me talk about this all the time because that's my purpose. Empowerment is multifaceted. It's the macro, where micro in terms of integrity is, religious integrity. Being integrity in some of the things that we talked about. I said integrity, I'm sorry, I should say empowerment, religious empowerment. If you're doing what you should be doing from the standpoint of your creator, it should be to bring people to a point of peace or salvation or whatever it may be based on your religious beliefs, right? That's empowerment of people spiritually, empowering people financially, empowering people emotionally. This is a big deal right now where people are starting to understand that mental health is a big deal. It has always been there, but now we're starting to have more of a conversation about mental health, right? It is a big deal, and we have to acknowledge that. But then we also have to not use that as an excuse. For example, everybody's heard by now the killing in Memphis, Tyree Nichols, and the guy that the guys cops that killed him and all this other kind of stuff. I don't know the details because I don't get into all of that a lot. But one of the things that I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, I did hear from some reputable sources. I'm talking about news outlets, something to the degree that, one of the cops was taking pictures, may have had beef with Tyree Nichols and all this other kind of stuff. I don't know, so don't yell at me. But if that was the case, and then some people would say, well, this guy, may have some mental issues, mental health issues. I don't believe that, but let's say he did, okay? Let's say he did. Well, mental health is not contagious. So what about those other cops? What about the other people who were on site? So all of a sudden, because this one idiot cop had a mental issue, if he did, I'm just, making an example. If he did, what it was a contagious, you can't use mental health as an excuse for that. That's not an excuse. And so you don't want to diminish the value of what mental health is, because it is a thing. It is absolutely a thing, but you don't want to start using it as an excuse. People go to court, and they plead temporary insanity. You ain't temporarily insanity. You was insane all the time. You know what I mean? So understanding those type things, man, is all of this is a part of just maintaining your integrity, being who you are, doing the things that you're supposed to do. So as I close out, just understand, I want you to understand and study, think about where you are, think about where you want to be. Think about what you need to do to maintain or advance your dignity, maintain or advance your values, maintain or advance your principles and your morals. What is it that you need to do? If you've always been a person that's always been late, be on time. What does it take? What are you going to lose if you just have to wake up 15 minutes earlier? Like that extra 15 minutes, that's not going to make any difference. The extra 15 minutes of sleep I'm talking about. You hit the snooze thing, you hit the snooze thing, you hit the snooze thing. No matter how many times you hit it, you're still going to be sleepy when you get up. So just go and get up, right? That extra 15 minutes can mean a lot. I tell you one thing, go try to get on an airplane 30 minutes late, and it's supposed to depart at a certain time if it's on time. But if it's supposed to depart on a certain time and you're like, well, I'm going to come strolling in here 30 minutes late and see what happens. Maintain your dignity, guys. Maintain your integrity and work on it. It is a learned behavior. You learned how to be late. Now unlearn how to be late. Maintain those things, the principles, values, morals, all the things that we talked about as it relates to Black integrity. So with that, guys, I appreciate you once again for joining me on this episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. Let's keep rolling, guys. Let's keep being great, empowering people, having fun, entertaining. This Black History Month has been a lot of fun so far. We got one more week. But it's been a lot of fun to just really bring some things to light as it relates to the Black community. One thing that I've noticed from people in other parts of the world who are non-Black, they're learning a lot from these episodes because they don't have these same type of experiences. And, so to hear some of the things that's going on, they've been learning a lot. And that I appreciate that because it shows that we're continuing to expand our net, our spheres of influence all over the world. So thank you so much for that. Continue to like, subscribe, download, and share. Go to the deepdivepodcast.live. Shoot me an email, shoot me a voicemail. Let me know how things are going, good or bad. Just send a message there, and we're going to continue to empower people and do the best that we can. Take a look at us on YouTube, subscribe, Facebook, wherever you see, Spotify, wherever you see the Deep Dive Podcast with Sam Orum. Try to support, all right? And I'm going to do my best to bring you my best. With that, God bless each and every one of you, and I'll see you on the beaches of the world.